Hi there, my name is Tushar Johri, and welcome to this episode of the podcast Top SCR Nuggets. I'm the proud owner of this growing LinkedIn community that is dedicated in helping you clear your GRP SCR exam. I have provided the link of this LinkedIn community in the description of this video. In this episode, I've invited one of our community member. His name is Subodh Kumar. In this episode, Subodh is going to share his story as to how he prepared and cleared the exam successfully. This particular episode is a bit special. Why? Let me tell you a little bit more about the guest that we are having today. Subodh is one of the senior most member of our LinkedIn community, but youngest at heart. Subodh attempted this exam while he was nearing his retirement. Yes, you heard it clearly. He was nearing his retirement when he attempted this exam. So you can see his drive was not about just collecting the certification because he was almost nearing his retirement, but his passion and his interest in climate risk was something that drove him to attempt this exam and successfully clear it. I'm sure you are excited to listen to Subodh Kumar sharing his story and how he went all out to prepare for this exam and leave no stones unturned for clearing it. I'm really curious to listen to Subodh, aren't you? So why don't we just go over and listen to what Subodh has to share? Hello, Subodh. A very warm welcome to this episode of this podcast. And thank you so much for sparing time out of your busy schedule for this particular episode. I'm sure a lot of listeners who are consuming this podcast are, will get inspired, will learn a lot of important, pointers, will collect a lot of information that will help them prepare better for the GRPSCR exam. Before we start headlong into this discussion about the GRP SCR exam preparation, I would request, if you can give a little background about your work experience, and then we will proceed from that point onwards. Over to you, Subodh.
Thank you, Tushar. Hello, everyone. I'm Subodh Kumar. I work with a premier commercial banking institution in India, and I have just superannuated on 31st of January 2024. I worked there for 37 long years with that organization, and during my tenure of 37 years, I had been participating in many workshops, seminars, which was in and around sustainability, ESG, and climate risk. So gradually, I started taking interest in that.
Right.
And ultimately, when I got this opportunity, I decided to go for this course because GARP is a very prestigious global institution. And if you get certification from GARP, then of course it's going to help you in career. Right. So though it was very late in my career, but I still thought that it's a good opportunity for me. And then I decided to go for this SCR certification.
Right. So Subodh, how did you learn or how did you read or hear about the GRP SCR examination or certification as such?
Actually, I was reading a lot many articles in newspapers and magazines, and this was this is sustainability and climate risk is the buzzword today.
Right.
So it was being discussed everywhere, and I was working with one training institutions of my organization. And there are many workshops and symposiums and seminars were being organized. Some were international symposiums also. So I got interested and I thought that is the necessity for the human society to go for this. and I wanted to know more and more about it. And
Right.
then one day, one of my colleague he came to me and he said that he had done this certification course and it's very challenging.
Right.
So that day, I also made up my mind that I should also go for it. If something is there and it is of my interest, then I should acquire more knowledge, more skill in this field.
Right.
So then I got some preliminary information from my colleague, and then I went to GARP site
Okay.
and became and decided to pursue this course. So
Perfect.
this is how it started.
Right. So, and before you decide to actually take up this certification, were there any other certification in mind, or were you considering, other certification as well? And my point is, if they were, what made you choose to take up GRP SCR above other certifications?
Actually, there is an institution in India called IIBF, Indian Institute of Banking and Finance, and they also offer a similar course.
Okay.
But since GARP is an internationally reputed
Correct.
body, and its course has global recognition,
Right.
so then I decided to go for it. I didn't scout for other institutions which are offering such kind of course because I knew that GARP is the most prestigious institution.
Great.
So, of course, courses offered by GARP will have a better, say, opportunity worldwide, and globally it will be recognized, and this kind of certification will be very prestigious for everyone.
Right.
So then I decided to go for this.
Correct. Okay. So thanks for that. That's really useful and good to know. So Subodh, from now getting a little deeper into the preparation part of GRP SCR, and you mentioned that it is something which is a little bit comprehensive, and obviously it requires a little more um, a planned approach to prepare for this one. I believe you have cleared the exam in October 2023, right? So, and I believe this was your first attempt for GRP SCR exam, Subodh?
Yeah, it was my first attempt, and I cleared it. Of course, result came in November.
Correct.
But seed of this has been sown in my mind way back in April or May
Okay.
when I started thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started this, I was having some preliminary idea
Okay.
through my reading in newspapers and all.
Right.
But when I saw the whole curriculum and everything on GARP side, then I came to know that it's very comprehensive and it will be very challenging also. But I had time in my hand, so
Right.
I thought that maybe 4 or 5 months will be enough.
Right.
And I suggest that whoever is thinking of this course, he should start preparing at least 4 months minimum in advance, so that he can be
Right.
well prepared and he can be able to clear it in first attempt.
Right. Indeed. So for the October exam, you probably would have registered somewhere around July, August. Subodh, do you recall?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I think I registered for it in July.
I see.
When I paid the fee, and after payment of the fee, of course, I started preparing more intensively.
Right.
And the prime thing in my mind was that I should clear it in first attempt. I should not be going for the second attempt or third
Right.
attempt.
Right.
And for that, of course, you require very thorough and intensive reading of
Right.
the materials provided by GARP.
Right. Now, I'll go a little deeper into that topic, Subodh. When you started preparing and you correctly recognize the kind of seriousness this exam demands, so what kind of strategy did you prepare for preparing for this examination? Did you prepare any schedule, or how much time you decided to give it, maybe on daily basis, or what was your strategy? What was your schedule like for preparing this exam? If you can go into a little detail on that, Subodh.
Yeah, actually, I prepared a schedule because I had 4 months in hand when we when I started seriously thinking about it.
Right.
So first of all, I read the book provided by GARP after registration.
Right.
And on first reading, I thought that is very simple. I have understood everything. And then I attempted the question paper that 80 questions set that is provided by GARP, and I fared very badly in that. And then I could understand that is not that simple.
Right.
Then second attempt again, I read the whole book and required readings that had been suggested that in the first attempt I had not read. So I went through that also. And then I started getting some sense that I will be able to do better.
Right.
And in the meanwhile, I was also reading some books suggested in that GARP course material.
Okay.
So that was available somewhere in a library. So I could read a few books on that also. In the meanwhile, many others in newspapers and magazines that were available, I went through that. So that gave me a better sense of the whole gamut of things around sustainability and climate risk. And my understanding of the whole issue was much better.
Right.
I once again attempted that 80 question set, and of course my score was slightly better, but was not up to mark.
Right.
So there gave me a sense that more practice is required because the questions are very, you can say, is in a way it's tricky, and answers are very close. Like in many questions, all the four responses appear to be correct.
Correct.
Only one was correct. So what is the difference? How to understand those nuances of each question and each answer? So we started practicing.
Right.
I looked for more material on internet, but I could not get. And then luckily I could connect to you, and then it helped me quite a lot. And then I realized that this practice part is very, very important because knowledge is one thing. If you are having knowledge, but then how to attempt those questions, that is also very important.
Indeed.
So I will suggest all prospective candidates that they should also focus on practice and get hold of more and more questions so that they can fare better in the final exam.
Perfect. Now that's well said, Subodh. So I'll continue with a little bit more on the preparation part. So how much time did you spare for this on a daily basis for the preparation, Subodh?
Yeah, it was really very challenging because I had a very, very busy work schedule.
Correct.
And I had to find time for this also. So I started early in the morning.
Okay.
Maybe sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning. I had to complete 1.5 or 2 hours reading, if 2 hours is better.
Right.
In the evening, in 1.5 to 2 hours, I thought that I will spend.
Right.
And weekends, I had to spend on this rather than going for some entertainment or some other work. So those kind of sacrifices are needed. Some family time will have to be given.
Correct.
And I did that continuously for 4 months to the extent possible. And that paid a good dividend. That helped me in clearing this exam.
Super.
So that kind of time allotment is very, very.
And you explained about different material that you referred, and you also referred to some books as well. Would you like to share, apart from the GRP ebook that they provide, what other material or books would you recommend the aspirants to refer for any additional preparation that can help them, in understanding the concepts better?
This book is very comprehensive and it covers many things.
Correct.
And some required readings are also there. That is also made available by GARP.
Right.
So those materials should be sufficient. But I don't remember offhand the name of the book.
Okay.
But then I think it's written by I don't remember actually.
Never
So
mind.
those books also were also on sustainability and reporting of sustainability and why this climate risk is emerging as a big threat to humankind. So
Right.
I don't actually exactly remember the name of
Never mind. I think you can share it later. I can share it with the audience of this podcast. And just one more question, Subodh, because a lot of people who um, are preparing for this examination are in the full-time job. Do you think they should, if they focus on the book alone, um, and they are very thorough with it, will that really help, or they have to refer to the extra material that is prescribed? Because there's a lot of material, and also a lot of aspirants are not from the banking industry. What do you suggest in that case? What they should do? Because I think, first of all, the time that has to be devoted to this is you have to be very persistent in preparing for it. But for those people who are really struggling to find time, what do you suggest for them? So
I think this repeated reading of material provided by GARP
correct.
and of course associated material required readings are there like principles of responsible investments and other things is already there. So those things should be sufficient.
Right.
I will not suggest to go for many other books which are available.
Right.
Because of course you will have time constant, but of course whenever you get opportunity you must read articles on this climate risk and sustainability. And of course, if you visit this UNO site, there also some material is available.
Right.
So on sustainability particularly and how different countries are faring on that. So
Right.
those things are important and that should be sufficient.
Right.
And
Okay.
candidates should remain focused on these aspects. If they do it, I think the chances of clearing this exam in first attempt will be very bright.
Right.
But more than those books, practice is
Crucial.
important and is required. So
Right.
reading is just one part of it. You will have to know how the questions are being framed and what are the nuances and what are the tricks in those questions like double negatives and all. So this will come through practice and those kind of practice is very important. And
Right.
when you do practice, of course, then you come to know where did you make mistake and while reading what things you didn't take care of. So
Right.
in the next reading perhaps you will be aware and you do that. And of course it's very small part, but then at end of every chapter in that book there are certain questions. So those questions also are good guide of what type of questions will be coming in the final exam. So you can just think in your mind that these are the questions which have been asked here, but similar questions can be asked in the main exam also.
Right. Right. So also a very basic point, while preparing, Subodh, although everybody take down notes while they're preparing in their own way. What kind of notes did you prepare? Were it more like a text, or did you use some pictorial or tabular representation, or anything else which would help you recall that information? Because there's a lot of information that you will have to remember while you're trying to prepare for this exam. So what kind of notes did you prepare so that it you can recall a lot of information, and even while revising, you can revise it very quickly. So anything that you would like to share on those notes that you would have prepared?
First of all, I highlighted the important portions in ebook itself in different colors, like
Right.
green,
Okay.
red, and I had given a code to all these colors that if it is green, then it's very important. If it
Right.
is yellow, it's like important, and those kind of codes.
Okay.
And then there are certain things like 17 sustainability goals, SDGs are there. So
Correct.
to remember that, I practiced, I wrote it again and again on my book, and then there are 169 other targets. So
Correct.
under these goals, so it's not possible to remember all those things, but then I went through all those goals and then related to it, and of course cross connected. And of course, in the book itself, it is given that three SDGs are directly connected to climate risk. So
Right.
those three I highlighted again, and I
Right.
wrote what are the advances and went through the targets under these goals. So,
All right.
and then there are many tables. So I practiced that table also, because when you see, you understand everything,
Correct.
but you may not remember. So
Right.
when you write again in the notebook, then your memory will go up. You will be able to recall it when you have
Right.
practiced it. So all the tables I drew again on in my notebook, and that helped me quite a lot.
Oh, nice. So you were actually taking those notes, trying to figure out tables and trying to organize that information which is there in the textbook or any other extra material that you had read in a way that, you write it down so that you remember for a longer time, and then you write it down in such a way that you are able to recall and remember it for a very long time.
One more thing I will like to highlight here, like
Right.
I also used audio part of that ebook, because
Okay.
many a times I was busy in doing something else, like maybe sometimes while I am taking breakfast or I'm taking dinner,
Hmm.
that audio was helping. It was reading out the text for me.
Right.
So also I used very frequently, and it helped me quite a lot. It saved me time, because sometimes, like when I was busy in something else, also I could still pursue my studies.
Thanks for sharing that information. How many times did you actually revise before you started taking up full length test, Subodh?
Yeah, actually, I took full length test a bit early
Okay.
after giving just one reading of the book.
Okay.
But then I realized that is too early. It's not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the second reading, I went through the whole course material,
Okay.
including other support material that is provided by GARP, like a report of TFCD or Delhi Declaration, or principles of responsible investment, principles of responsible credit,
Okay.
and then basics of risk management, that also has been given. Particularly this is important, particularly for those candidates who are not from banking sector. So
Right.
they have to read this first, and after reading all this, I attempted the same 80 question set again.
Hmm.
Then score was better, but
Okay.
still it was not up to my satisfaction.
Okay.
So then, and I could realize that the book I have read, I knew those things, but then attempting questions and selecting the right answer from that is slightly different from what you understand.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went through the book yet again,
Yeah.
and then I highlighted all those important things and smaller nuances. Uh, then I wrote that in my notebook,
Right.
because questions are based on those. And of course, these were 80 questions set. You don't know on which line of the book
Correct.
the question will be set. So I will suggest participants to go through the whole book very carefully and intensively,
Right.
because each and every line is loaded with some kind of information, and which is important. The
Correct.
questions can be asked from anywhere.
Very
So those
important.
things I did, and those readings which are not in the main book, but has been suggested by GARP and is given by GARP in some other reports. So those things are also very important. So
Yeah.
I think book I read 4 or 5 times thoroughly.
Okay. Okay.
Those other materials twice or thrice.
Right.
And then
Okay.
made notebooks,
Correct.
notes in my book, and that helped me quite a lot.
Indeed.
And the highlighted portion helped me in quickly revising many things.
Correct.
Because I said, of course, I went through the books, but then highlighted portion in the book itself in ebook, those things I revised many times.
Okay.
So that also helped me.
Yeah, so those were like your notes, which which you kept on revising much more carefully than obviously the remaining content, but the emphasis on those highlighted points was much more. than the other content. So, and those were also that you thought are the key points that you should not forget.
Yeah, and there is one more point.
Yeah.
End of the book, after the 8th chapter, certain definitions have been given. So
Okay.
expansion of applications and definitions have been given, and it has been explained there. So
Okay.
that is also very important. That also
Okay.
helped me quite a lot because in my first attempt, I thought that is okay, I have understood. But then when I went through that part, then I could realize that yes, I should have known this earlier.
Okay.
So candidates should read that part also very, very carefully, and that will help quite a lot because all the comprehensive material and things are there. So instead of searching it in the main book, if you read that portion, say quite frequently,
Mm-hmm.
you can keep yourself abreast of many other information which are required.
Okay. Okay. Good point there, Subodh. So while preparing, I'll come to the, I want to also ask you on the practice a little more. But before I come to that, were there any chapters in the curriculum or in the book that you found a little difficult to understand or, you know, a little, comparatively less interesting to go through? Were there any chapters like that, Subodh, from the ebook?
Actually, I will say that the whole book is very interesting. It's very interesting, loaded with so much of information.
Correct.
But chapter number 4, 5, and 6, those are very, very important. And then by the time you come to chapter number 4, of course, you have read 3 more chapters.
Correct.
So the book starts using some concepts which have already been discussed earlier.
Okay.
So that's why it has to be chapter wise, and then there are certain things which require a better understanding of whole gamut of things.
Okay.
So I will suggest that chapter number 4, 5, and 6 should be given proper attention. Maybe 7 also.
Correct.
But in a way, all chapters are very important.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So coming to practice now. So both apart from the question that was applied by GRP, the full length test. Did you find any other material to practice from?
I tried hard, but initially I could not get anything, and I was very frustrated because the same 80 questions you cannot practice again and again, and you can judge yourself.
True.
So while I was looking for all these materials, I came across this site, your site on LinkedIn, and when I saw this, it came as a boon for me, and I practiced those chapters, and I was waiting for new chapters. You said that this will be coming in a week or in a fortnight.
Right.
So
right.
I was just every day I was checking whether it has come or not, and that also helped me quite a lot.
Right.
After that, I could not get anything. Of course, after some time, I came across one colleague. He said, "Why don't you check on Demi?" So on Demi, I found something which was not very useful.
Okay.
But still, something was better than nothing.
Better than, yeah.
And we had many improvisations, but still it was helpful. Other than these two help, I could not get anything actually.
Right. At that time, I think you rightly mentioned that I was trying to create those practice tests chapter by chapter, and I was trying to release them every week. So I'm glad that I hope those were a little bit of help in the preparation for you. And after that, I also uploaded a separate section, not section, but a separate set of questions on Udemy as well for people to practice. So these are another 30-40 questions that are there on Udemy, apart from the free test that you are mentioning, Subodh.
Yeah. So this Udemy thing, I think it needs to be more comprehensive. And right now it was only 30-50 questions. So if say 200 questions or 300 questions can be prepared, it will help candidates quite a lot, because
Right.
that kind of material is required, and they will be able to judge themselves whether they have progressed or not, and what kind of tweaking in their way of reading and understanding they have to make in due course. So
Right.
that is also very important.
Indeed.
Because 40 questions are, of course, it's good, but it's not good enough to help anyone. So,
Yeah. No, so I was mentioning 30-40 per chapter. So this is 30-40 questions on every chapter. And
okay,
yeah.
yes, then it's more than 300 questions. So
Correct. So
that is
so there are around 240 questions that are now and these are apart from the free test that I've prepared. So these are additional 240 questions which are there on Udemy that and these have been per chapter there are 30-40 questions which covers the entire breadth of the chapter, so that people can practice more, and hopefully they should benefit from this additional practice.
Yeah. So if this has come, this will be very helpful. If I remember correctly, it was not available when I was preparing for it.
That's correct. I was trying to, release those free tests first, so that people can immediately start practicing those, and then gradually, then it matured. And as the questions, kept receiving the feedback from different people who are preparing, and that led to the creation of this later on. Yeah, you're right. At that time, these Udemy questions were not available at that time.
So those things will also be very helpful, because practice is the main thing in this exam.
Correct.
Apart from acquiring knowledge, this kind of practice is also required, because the same question can be asked in 10 different ways.
10 different ways. Yeah.
And all the responses are normally so close to each other that it's very difficult to find out which one is the right one. So this will come only through practice. So more and more practice is required for this.
That's correct. Yeah, that's a valid point. One more question. Like you, Subodh, and there are a lot of the aspirants who are preparing for this exam are in full-time job, and in full-time job, it often it happens that because of some workload on the professional or personal side, it might so happen that there would be a break in your schedule, in your regular routine of preparing for this exam. How do you suggest people can tackle this kind of a very practical situation that that may have a risk of introducing a long break in your preparation schedule, and then while preparing for this exam, it is difficult. It becomes difficult if you have a long break in your routine, because you may not be able to recall as to what you studied 10 days ago if you are not in constant touch with your preparation schedule. So how do you suggest the aspirants can tackle these kind of challenges that are bound to come?
Yeah, it's very challenging, and it requires a little bit of sacrifice on family and friends front, because you will be required to consistently read for
Correct.
at least 2-3 hours every day.
True.
So everyone will have their own challenges of maintaining this time discipline. So I will suggest that they should go for various things. Like, one is, whenever they get time, they should read.
Right.
When they are busy with something else, they can use audio.
Right.
And, yeah, and there are some materials available on YouTube also, which can be used while you are traveling. If you have time, you can listen to that. That is not directly related to this exam, but then again, it will give you a better perspective of what is climate risk and what is sustainability and what the world is doing about it. So those things are important.
Right.
But this consistent reading and maintaining time discipline at least for 4 months is essential. Is very required. Is very important for everyone.
Okay, good. Well, yeah. So I think that's a important piece of advice for those who are listening.
And one more piece of advice or suggestion or whatever you call. I did it. I did this. I cleared this exam at the age of 59 and a half years. So if I can do, I can think of it. Youngsters, most of the aspirants will be youngsters. So it's possible for everyone,
Right, sir.
and that is very much doable. The only thing is that you have to maintain time discipline and you have to keep yourself motivated.
True. True. Now that's really inspiring. So, what I'm sure, I think a lot of people will definitely take this cue and then consider that for their preparation. So, thanks for sharing that as well. So, about moving to exam now. So, for the exam, did you have any strategy in mind for tackling these questions, and did you prepare any strategy, or you wanted to just go with the flow in the exam while attempting the exam?
Yeah, of course, I thought over it. First of all, I thought that I must go through all the questions and answers, and then in the second round, I will start attempting. But then I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I will not have that much of time left.
Correct.
So then I thought that in the first go, I will attempt all those questions where I am damn sure that is correct. I am correct. So I
Okay.
did that. I did that, and it gave me good. You can say that is confidence that I
Mm-hmm.
it is good. So almost half of the questions I attempted in the first go, and then in the second year, uh, uh, I did I did again and consider, and where I was not sure, I made a choice based on whatever I had read and practiced,
Mm-hmm.
and I saved 15 minutes time towards the end so
Okay.
that I can revise. Because sometimes if you don't revise, you make some mistake or some in sequencing or something, then the exam is out of your hand. So I
Mm.
saved that 15 minutes, which was very helpful. I think that 15 minutes helped me in getting at least 4 or 5 questions correct where I was in dilemma.
Right.
By that, quite sure that no, this is not the right choice. This one is the right choice because by then I had gone through all other questions. So many questions are related. When you go
Okay.
to question number, realize that question number 5 I have done incorrectly. The correct answer is that clue also you will get when you do practice or when you attempt exam. So saving this 15 minutes time towards the end for revising everything was very important.
Very important.
And certainly I had made that I will proceed like that well in advance. Means before going for exam, I had thought that I will do it like that, and
Mm-hmm.
I did the same, and it was very beneficial for me.
Right. So there are two key points which you mentioned. So first is you probably would have set some um, fixed time per question, that if there are some complex questions that are coming and you're not able to tackle them there and then, so you probably would have skipped that and then move forward to pick up those questions
Exactly.
which you were clear about or you were confident about, and
Yeah.
you attempted those in your first go, and then you probably would have either marked those questions for review, and then you would have come back to those questions a little later to tackle them once more, once you have the entire confidence of attempting all the questions in the first go, and then the second go, then you would have tackled those questions again with a cooler mind and with much more confidence, and a little bit experience that you would have gained after marking the questions in the first go, and that is how you have tackled your entire exam paper like that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, I
And
did.
and in the last 15 minutes, do you remember changing some of the answer options after reading them, and fine tuning the answers to those questions which you did not attempt in the first go?
Yeah. So as I said, at least four or maybe 5 questions I corrected, and when I after coming back home, I checked those, and then I realized that those 15 minutes, at least 4 or 5 questions I made the right corrections
Superb.
during revision, because I was in dilemma whether answer number 3 is correct or 4 is correct.
Hmm.
So I changed at the last moment. All
Okay.
those changes were correct actually.
Right.
So that kind of revision was also required, and it was really good for me that I did that.
Right. So although we have touched upon that already, but Subodh, do you recall your first 10, 15 minutes? Because normally, in the first 10 or 15 minutes, either people tend to build up confidence or they may lose confidence, depending on the kind of questions that come initially. So do you recall your first 10, 15 minutes of the exam?
Yeah, those 10, 15 minutes was obviously I was very tense, and nervousness was trying to grip me. And then I was constantly attempting to keep it away and trying to bank on my confidence. And I gave my self assurance that you have read quite a lot, you have practiced quite a lot, so everything will be all right. And I think after first 8 or 10 questions, I was very cool, and
Okay.
I I came back to normal myself,
Right.
and then it was a very smooth thing for me. Then I
Right.
didn't think about the ultimate result. Whatever was going to happen will happen, and then
Right.
I was out of this thing. But yes, proper management of those initial 10-15 minutes is very very important, because if you lose your coolness and you become nervous, then maybe you will go on making mistakes afterwards also.
True.
So I will suggest that aspirants should maintain their nerve properly. They should not be nervous, because
Right.
it will not help them. It will counterproductive for them. So
Yeah.
it's true for every exam. It's more true
Correct.
for this exam.
True.
Those 15 minutes are very crucial. You are very correct that it should be managed very very properly.
True. And these are bound to happen. So all those who are listening, it is bound to happen that, you may be jittery, you may be nervous about this exam. So keeping your composure and keeping your, mental state in such a way that you don't get nervous. And this happens with everybody, almost everybody, where, you have the sense of nervousness. So as Subodh was mentioning, it is important to keep yourself collected, keep yourself, keep your confidence high, and somehow, even if you're not able to tackle all the questions, leave them, move ahead. And as Subodh, suggested, that go for the first round where you can answer, a lot of questions with more confidence, and then come back to the questions which you're not able to tackle. So keep your ego aside, move ahead, and come back to those questions a little later. So it's important. Subodh, after you completed your exam and when you came out of the exam hall, how confident were you that you are going to clear the exam?
Mm, I was confident. I was confident that I have done fairly well, and since I had practiced and tested myself time and again.
Right.
So, but still sometimes I used to think, have I made some mistake here and there? So some element of doubt was also there. But
Right.
by and large, I was confident that I will be able to clear this
Right.
exam, and of course I was very curious to know the result. I was like seeing time and again whether the result has come or not.
Right.
So it happens every time. Like whenever you appear in exam, of course you are confident. But this exam particularly, I realized I appeared in many exams during my career.
Right. Right.
But this exam particularly, I realized that sometimes overconfidence also is not good, because the questions are framed in such a way that it may give you a wrong impression that you have marked the right choice,
Right.
and ultimately when you come to know that this is the right answer, this is different from your response because of this factor, then it's different.
Correct.
It's
The
difficult
exam.
for being so much confident.
Right, right. So, but all it's great that it was would have been um, I won't say a delight to have cleared this exam, and one of the, I think, interesting, but also something this kind of exam really challenges you to put your best. So I'm glad to see that result, and clearing this exam gives you that, not only a kind of a satisfaction and happiness, but you feel good about putting so much effort, and then you're seeing the result of passing the exam. So it's good. So Subodh, coming to after clearing this exam, whatever objective that you had set for yourself, whatever you wanted to achieve or to gain after taking this exam, do you think this certification has added value in some way or the other to, apart from obviously enhancing your knowledge, how did it really help, Subodh, yourself?
Yeah, it has certainly added value, because when I broke this news that I have cleared this exam, everyone was very appreciative that I have done it. And I got many inquiries also, and like people wanted to know
Mm,
uh, more about these things, and I got opportunity to attend a few seminars here in Delhi,
okay.
which was being organized by different bodies like Delhi Management Association and other bodies,
Hmm.
and other institutions also. Like there is one institution called Climate Policy Initiative.
Okay.
So they also interest. They also came to know that yes, a few people there had already passed this exam. So I got good recognition,
Right.
at the end of my career in my organization. I did this, and of course it's just 2 months. So now I am exploring what else can I do, and how can I help others, and I can use my knowledge, skill, or talent, so that other can also get benefit out of it.
So nice. So I'm sure, I think if you have that intent where you want to help others, I'm sure there'll be some opportunity that will come your way. And I always believe that, if you do something to help others, those kind of initiatives always succeed sooner or later. So I'm sure, I hope that you come across some really good opportunities and you're able to help people at large. So, and we are towards the end of almost towards the end of this particular podcast episode. Um, so Subodh, just to before we end, you know, around 5 tips that you would like to give to the aspirants, so that they have a better chance of succeeding in clearing this exam.
Yeah, I will say that first of all, aspirants should start preparing well in advance, at least 4 months in advance.
Hmm.
That is my first tip. They should do it.
Right.
They should not take it very lightly.
Hmm.
They should take it seriously. Then second is they should read the book and associated material provided by GARP repeatedly and thoroughly,
Okay.
time and again, as many
Right.
times as possible, but at least 3-4 times.
Okay.
That is required.
Right.
Then third is practice as much as you can.
Right.
So those 80 questions you practice as much as you can, and then material provided by your site and Udemy,
Right.
or
Right.
any other. But credentials should be good. Like
Right.
if you are the material or the practice questions are not good, then it may not help you.
Right.
But every aspirant must practice more and more.
Questions. Yeah.
Then one should pick the habit of reading articles that is published in newspapers and magazines, and the current things which are happening, like recently COP28 happened in
28.
Dubai, answers of those. So wherever you get opportunity, you should read that, because some of the questions which are not there in the book, or details which are not there in the book will be available there. So
Correct.
that is very important. And then the fifth suggestion or advice or tip is keep track of the most minute detail of everything.
Right.
Because this book provided by GARP is loaded with so much of information
True.
that each and every line or sentence or chapter
Can-
has some value. It's not that, and when you go through it, it comes to your mind that I have understood everything.
Correct.
But of course, you have to retain and understand the concept behind that. That is also very important. So each and every table, each and every graph, each and every pictorial presentation should be looked at again and again.
Right.
So by doing these five things, of course, I think aspirants can clear this exam in their first attempt.
For sure. So I think, Subodh, we are towards the end of this particular podcast, and I'm sure all these pointers, all these pieces of information will really help the participants to prepare better. And especially, I think your entire journey is of this preparation, and you taking up this examination at the stage of your your career. I think if the amount of efforts that you have put, your energy is really really contagious, I'm sure, and is going to inspire a lot of people to even work harder after listening to this podcast. And like you and I we both of us would like to wish all the aspirants all the best with their preparation. And I'm sure listening to these experiences, the audience of this podcast will benefit a lot. And please take up all the important information that has been passed for your preparation. And wish you all the very best from both of us. Right. So, Subodh, I would like to. Would you like to say something before we end?
Yeah, so I just want to wish all the aspirants, and I must appreciate your effort because you are putting so much of effort and finding time from your busy schedule so that can help others. So good luck to you, good luck to all the aspirants, and I'm
Thank you,
sure
Subodh.
that by taking this course, we will be able to help the humanity and we will be able to make a better future for everyone. Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
thank, thank you, Subodh. I'll end this podcast here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.